Airplanes are complex miracles of modern technology. Or are they? Let's take a look at the wing and see how complicated it really is. So on some previous videos, I've gotten some comments regarding some of the interior components of the wing. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about, okay, what is everything that is here? What are all these components? What does everything do? And really break down what could look, very overwhelming and complicated, and in truth is really actually pretty simple. So I grew up with a dad who was very mechanically inclined, very good at fixing things. My brother was as well, and I never really felt confident in some of that stuff. So when it came to like fixing cars and what have you, I was always a little overwhelmed. And when I was in college, I decided to buy an old classic Jeep. I bought a 1966 Jeep CJ5. And the idea was this particular Jeep was in rough shape and it needed restoration. And I'm like, what better way to learn about vehicles than with probably the most simple vehicle you could get, right? And so I did. I tore into that thing, and in doing so, I learned a ton about how all cars worked. But I did it on a very simple vehicle. In a lot of ways, this Cub is the same way, right? You can't get much more simple than a Cub when it comes to airplanes, but it's a really good way to learn everything that goes into any airplane. It might look different in some versus another, but you get the basics down really well, right? So again, let's kind of go through the wing and we'll see everything that's here. So to start with, this is a 1946 Cub. Early Cubs did have some differences in the wings, and I will point out the primary one that I can here. So to start out, we have the wing spars. Now on this one, they are aluminum spars. They're an I-beam type construction. You've got the rear spar here and the front spar here. You can see obviously the front spar is significantly thicker than the rear spar. On the early Cubs, these would have been wood. The way you can tell the difference is if it weighs the same as a duck. And if you get that joke, you are my kind of people. No, obviously it'll be quite visually obvious. But you can see here the I-beam type construction. So you've got, the very thin webbing, and then it comes out on the top. These little downward parts here are not so important structurally. They are for attaching, and all the ribs and everything will screw into this. So you've got the wing spars, and you've got the ribs. Very basic construction. The spars obviously provide the strength along the length of the wing, kind of a cantilevered beam type thing, and the ribs provide the shape of the wing for producing lift. All right. While I'm here, I do want to talk about one thing I've mentioned in previous videos, and I got a comment on a previous video that led me to believe that I might not have explained myself completely accurately or clearly. And so I do want to clear up what might be a misconception out there. I've talked before about how, as I have found ribs that have been previously repaired, that I do want to replace them. And as I've talked about as well with the ribs that are broken, how I want to replace them. And someone said, hey, this repair is perfectly acceptable and strong, and you can keep using it. And to that I say, yes, absolutely, 100% agree. And so I apologize if I have given anyone the impression that these repairs are not okay from an airworthiness perspective, or that I'm concerned about their strength. That was not my intent. For me personally, because I am doing so much work to get to this point, right? Because I have completely uncovered the wing and I'm going to take everything apart to clean it up anyway, even if I were going to be repairing the broken ribs rather than replacing them, I'm still planning on taking them apart and off in order to clean them up and make them nice, right? So for me personally, because I am getting this far into the wing, my desire is to, when I am done, return the wing to as close to 100% original as I can. That is just me. If you are in the same situation, you have a broken rib and you just want to repair it, a repair like this is totally appropriate. You could even make the argument that it's actually stronger than the original rib because you actually have triple the material, right? Because you've taken this piece and you've doubled it over. So you can see here, you got the original material, you've got this piece on this side, and you have an identical piece on the other side. It is strong. It is strong. It is done in accordance with accepted practices for repairs on these things. I could keep this rib. You see I have it yellow tagged. I am planning on replacing this rib. I could keep this rib, no problem. There's nothing else wrong with it, right? The ribs that are red tagged, that are broken, I could repair them in the same way as this. That would be completely appropriate. I could do that. I am personally choosing not to. But it is an approved repair. It would be perfectly airworthy. I absolutely could do that. It's just that because I am getting so far into this, when I am done, I want to have everything perfect. That is me. I realize it's more expensive, right? I am spending money. I don't necessarily have to, but I'm doing it because that is the finished product that I want. If you do not care about how your ribs look, that is totally okay. They're covered up, obviously, to each their own. And I will certainly not judge you if that is the approach you want to take. I just want to make it clear that no, you don't have to do what I am doing. This is what I am choosing to do because when I am done with this thing, I want it to be as close to 100% as I can get it so that it will fly another 80 years. That is my goal, right? So I did want to clear that up. But thank you for those comments. If you have any other questions, please drop comments below. As you can see, I read them, I reply to them, and they give me great ideas for things to talk about in future videos. So keep those comments coming. I really hope you like this video, but perhaps just as importantly, I really hope that YouTube likes this video. Because if YouTube likes this video, it'll send this video to more people, and hopefully more people can get something out of it. However, for YouTube to like this video, I need you to like this video. So that's the very basics. What about all this other stuff? All right. So right here, and then at 3 other points along the wing that we'll point out as we go down are what are called compression struts. These are what hold the spars away from each other from the various things that are trying to pull them together. All right. So these hold the appropriate distance between the wing spars. Down here on the end, you can also see the spar attachment points. So this hole here and this hole here, those are the 2 bolts that hold it to the airframe itself. So between those 2 bolts and then the struts that come down off the bottom of the wing and attach to the airplane over here, there are only 4 attachment points for this wing to the airplane. All right. So next up we have a fuel tank. Again, this is a modification to the original J-3 Cub design. However, on most airplanes, you are going to see a fuel tank in the wing. There's a couple of different ways to do this, but all modern airliners have the fuel in the wings. Most airplanes are going to have wing-based fuel tanks. So while this is not common to a J-3, or at least not original to a J-3, it is very, very common in aviation overall. So here you got some braces, just obviously providing some rigidity here on the end. Trailing edge of the wing and leading edge. On the Cub, the leading edge comes in 4 parts. So you have these 2. First ones go all the way back to the spar. Then you come out here, the 3rd one only goes part of the way back. And then finally you have this little curved 4th piece. All right, so there's your leading edge providing that strength, impact protection. You know, you can think if this were just fabric and you hit a bird or something, like that'd be bad. So along with that, you can kind of see, you can see them protruding here, but we'll go down here where you can see them better on this piece of leading edge. It doesn't go all the way through. We have the nose ribs. Again, this is just providing strength to that leading edge, but it doesn't need to carry all the way back to provide shape for the wing. So you just need that material up here providing strength there. So those are the nose ribs. All right. Next up, these wires. So someone pointed these out in a previous video. So you've got they're called drag and anti-drag wires. These are holding the wing true, right? So if you think about if you know anything about engineering, you know that, triangle is kind of the strongest shape, right, when it comes to structural engineering. If you just had the spars and the ribs and these compression struts, everything's a rectangle. Let's see if I can do this with my hands here. Everything's a rectangle, and so there'd be nothing stopping the wing from, one spar going in, out, and bending in this way. So you have to add some triangulation. So you've got these drag and anti-drag wires, and these are pulled to a particular tension. So again, these are trying to pull the spars together. The compression struts are holding them apart, and these are what provide that dimensional rigidity as to keep the wing from kind of twisting in this way, right? All right, so back there, I'll come around here. You've got essentially the trailing edge for the aileron bay, right? So it's got a little bit of a curved shape back here, and the aileron's going to nestle in there. You've got the aileron hinge attachment points, and then you've got pulleys and cables. So in this case here, the cable here that runs through the wing is still here, and then there's one external to the wing that's removed. So those are just pivoting the aileron. These here are some of your stops for essentially aileron travel. The attachment points for the cables are here, and they would hit up against those stops to keep the aileron from traveling too far, right? So that's all pretty straightforward, nothing cosmic here. This little metal piece here is in place because if you come around underneath, this is one of the strut attachment points. That bolt comes through right here, and it's very difficult to get in, and you kind of have to push up on the fabric a little bit, and you would potentially punch through the fabric if that metal weren't there. So that's just there to kind of protect the fabric. Again, you have the strut attachment points front and rear. And then back here, see sticking down, this would be the jury strut attachment point. So you have the main struts coming down diagonal, and this little thing called the jury strut comes down to help triangulate all that as well. All right, and then coming around to the end here, you can see, another compression strut down here. Again, we kind of passed by them, but the two compression struts in the middle, and then this one down here at the end. You can see how the spars taper off to a point here on the end. And this last rib here is actually a little bit smaller than the rest as everything tapers down. Then finally, a couple more braces, and then this wingtip bow, which just gives a nice elliptical end to the wing. And that is literally it. That is all there is to this wing. Obviously, not counting the aileron, which is removed right now. The aileron is essentially just another smaller wing with hinges on it, right? And so it's not cosmic. It might be a little intimidating, but when it comes down to it, when I look at the restoration of this wing, it's like, okay, just got to take everything apart, clean everything up, repaint stuff, and put it all back together. It's truthfully, it's not cosmic. It is just a lot of little parts.